So normally I actually finish a season on 20 episodes, but I kind of wanted to do another episode. Actually, I got caught up on the actual fun I got from making season 3 that I completely forgot that I was coming towards episode 20, and I decided, well, I'm going to continue on and just do one more episode because I actually had a blast doing season 3, and I wanted to do one more episode, just a kind of a farewell episode to season 3. And this video will be about the PG-13 rating. And I've done a video about this way back in season 1, and the video was based heavily on my own opinion. And the video was called why I think PG-13 action movies suck. It was something like that. It was very much based on my own opinion, and it got very, very mixed views. But I wanted to touch into this topic again on PG-13 rating. And the title of this video is the obvious problem with the PG-13 rating. And I feel I need to get a bit of a drum roll for this, a bit of a drum roll, just to set a sense of tone, a sense of big reveal. What's the biggest problem with the PG-13 rating? And here it is, guys. The biggest problem with the PG-13 rating is that everyone loves violence. I mean, I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, I'm not a crazy person, but this is actually true. And you might be thinking to yourself, maybe this doesn't relate to me at all. If you think about it, people really love violent sports. I mean, people watch wrestling, and I mean, that's fake as shit, but I mean, people love the illusion of pain. I mean, the idea of a guy getting his head smashed in by a chair or thrown through a table, or one wrestler doing a finisher move on another wrestler. People love the idea of pain. The idea of UFC and MMA, that's gotten so popular these days. And I mean, that's just two guys in a ring beating the shit out of each other, using punches, kicks, rappels, using submissions, using any means possible to win a fight. And people love that. I mean, also, let's look at TV shows. I mean, if you look at the most popular TV shows to date, The Walking Dead is the biggest of the biggest. I mean, in terms of ratings. I mean, the season 7 premiere opened with 22.3 million views. That's how much it got. 22.3 million viewers tuned in to watch the season 7 premiere. And very minor spoilers, I'm going to go into this. And in terms of spoilers, I'm going to go not mention who got killed. But season 6 cliffhanger, how it ended, was basically one of the main characters was going to be beaten the shit out of by a guy with a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. So that was literally the season 6 cliffhanger. That was it. So people had to wait months and months for that of course, that cliffhanger and that big reveal, who's going to die in a very, very gruesome way. But the way I feel is that if people actually just seen kind of a swing, and if someone just seen the victim on the ground, I'm guaranteed people would have freaking hated that. I mean, I'm guaranteed at least half the viewers who tuned into that were literally tuning in to see a guy or a girl being beaten the shit out of by a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. And of course, there's a massive fan base for The Walking Dead. I mean, there's a massive fan base for the narrative and for the characters. And of course, that was one of the factors that got this massive viewership for that episode. But also for the fact that people tuned in to see a guy or girl being beaten the shit out by a baseball bat with wire wrapped around it. The same goes for Game of Thrones. I mean, Game of Thrones is HBO's biggest show, and there's lots of great things about Game of Thrones. There's a great narrative, there's some wonderful characters, there's a wonderful world about it. But if it wasn't violent and gritty, people wouldn't really watch it. I mean, it would have an audience out there, but it wouldn't have the audience that we have now. It would not have that. I mean, once again, minor spoilers. I don't want to go into this too much, but this is going to say a lot about Game of Thrones fans and people in general. Ramsay Bolton's death was watched 800,000 times on YouTube. So 800,000 times people watched this guy die a very gruesome way. So it just goes to show there are people out there that love violent TV shows. I myself included. Also, I mean, there is also horror movies. Horror movies have minor budgets, really small budgets, but have really gruesome material that make a shit ton of money back in the box office. If you look at the Saw franchise, 7 movies altogether, they had a combined budget of 64 million. In total, what it made back in terms of box office was 873 million. Those films are mainly about people being put into torture traps and trying to get out of it or struggling and getting killed in very gruesome ways. Hostel had a budget of 4.8 million, made 80 million back in the box office. And that was, once again, a film that was pure just torture porn. That was that film, but people tuned in to watch that film. The Friday the 13th films, all 12 movies had a combined budget of 80 million. Box office, what made back in the box office was 464 million back in the box office. I mean, those films are not story driven, they're not story compelling, they don't have these great characters. We're really just following Jason killing teenagers in very gruesome ways, but yet I adore that franchise, and so many other people adore that franchise because of that reason. Because we're all secretly rooting for Jason. Don't Breathe, which may become a horror franchise because it done incredible in the box office this year. Shot for 9 million, made 152 million back. So it goes to show that there is a massive, massive audience for like hard, R-rated material out there. The thing is that we as an audience, like we as people who watch films and go to cinema, we've become smarter. We have a standard for how we appreciate fight scenes and shootouts. We have a higher standard for action set pieces. We have a higher standard for how we feel about costumes and how we feel about kind of weapons and how the impact these weapons would place upon a person, upon a character. And of course, Hollywood goes to such great lengths to replicate these weapons and replicate the costumes. They go into great lengths to actually train their actors to hold the weapons and make it look really authentic. But then they have these weapons being fired and shot, and all of a sudden we see the impact of these weapons, and with the audience, with the viewers, we don't see that impact of the weapon. We just see a guy falling over clumsily. You see a guy trip over. We see a guy, it looks like he's fainting or passing out, or maybe he's been hungry and he passed out, or a guy who's a diabetic who didn't get an insulin shot. We just don't see the impact of death anymore on the big screen, especially when it comes to PG-13 rating. It just feels like a guy falling down awkwardly, and you're thinking, wait, is that guy going to get up? Is he sleeping? We don't see the impact of death in the PG-13 rating. That's one of the biggest issues I think we have with the PG-13 rating. Well, it's one of the biggest issues I have with the PG-13 rating. The thing is, though, there is a market for R-rated material. And all they have to do is, filmmakers, producers, what they need to do is just dial it back. I mean, you can just dial back the budget. They can work with directors who can work with a smaller budget. They can shoot it in countries where they can do more for their money. They can work around this. They can create this illusion, because that's what filmmaking is. It's the illusion of location, the illusion of narrative, of characters. That's what it is. So you can stretch your budget. Also, like, Deadpool had some incredible, smart kind of marketing for the film. It sold itself as an R-rated movie. So when we seen the trailer, we seen Deadpool swearing, and we seen him using his katanas, and there's blood and there's headshots. It sold it as that point. So we seen all these really cool moments that were really cool and violent, and it got people into it. And I know Deadpool is a very popular comic book character, but we were excited because we were getting an R-rated version of Deadpool, and that's why it done so well in the box office. So here's my final thoughts on this thing, and I'm just going to say is, would a 13 years old really be that traumatized by some blood spatter or a headshot or a slash or a stab and some blood squirting out of a victim in a film? Would they be really offended by that? Because A 13 years old can easily go online and see all sorts of darker material out there. They can easily do that. I mean, they can easily watch a lot darker, edgier TV shows on a laptop. They can watch darker stuff on Netflix. They have ways of watching, all sorts of stuff. Of course, there's also video games. They can play really violent video games involving headshots and, of course, really horrific kind of deaths. I mean, I'm not going to blame video games for any of, video games are evil. I'm not going to say any of that, but there's also history. So, I mean, do they kind of cut around the harshness of history? Because history and humanity, it's pretty violent if you look at it. If you go into history into detail, it's very violent. So, I mean, you can't really cushion a 13 years old that much. I mean, like when I think I was, before I even was 10, I seen the first RoboCop, and I'm pretty sure I seen the RoboCop 2 as well. And of course I seen Braveheart, and I wasn't never horrified by any of it. I accepted that this was violence, people was getting killed. I accepted all of that, and I never kind of went nights without sleeping. I never woke up with a sweat. I never was compelled to dress up as a Scottish person and seek out English people to kill. I never had that illusion. But for some reason, producers, filmmakers, maybe they feel that, well, what if this inspires kids to do evil? Because that's what it sometimes feels like. Afraid to go that extra mile because they feel it may warp their minds. I'm just saying the 13 years olds are well able to handle a bit of blood splatter here and there, and a bit of a stab or a blade going into someone. I mean, they're well able to handle all that. There's a wonderful video by Good Bad Flicks, and he does some incredible videos. He's got some incredible material on his YouTube channel. He does this great YouTube video, and it was about how the PG-13 rating changed since the 80s, and it was just a great video, and it just shows you how perfect the PG rating once was. It was actually had a perfect sense of balance for the adults and had perfect sense of balance for 13 years olds. But these days it's become so warped and so kind of sensitive to almost everything. I mean, it's just a real shame these days that they had a perfect balance was, and it's just gone to crap. I just generally think the PG-13 rating needs to be revisited. It needs to be kind of revived in such a way that adults can find a balance and 13 years olds can have a balance in which it's not too violent for a 13 years old, but it's acceptably violent for kind of an adult. That's what I'm thinking. It needs to have that balance, because the PG-13 rating, that's 15s in Europe. So a poor 15 years old has to go through this horrible bloodless experience. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it's so disappointing. I feel so bad for 15 years olds in Europe because they don't get to see, proper violence, because, it's the PG-13 rating in other places all over the world. So it's really disappointing in that sense. I just think they just need to get a good balance, because I think all of us, we do like getting a bit of blood with our material, a bit of with our action, with our heart. We like to see a sense of realism when it comes to death, when it comes to character deaths. And that's just my rant, if you will, about the obvious problems with the PG-13 rating. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So I'm just going to say that season 4 will probably drop in around the end of this year, maybe early 2017. That's kind of weird just saying that out loud, actually. So definitely comment on this video and comment on what you'd like to see in terms of next year's videos, or in terms of next year's kind of season, what you would like to see. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and I will actually keep watch on the channel in terms of if anyone does comment on that, and I will comment back. I will still be, there in sense of community and in sense of being there for anyone who comments on any of my videos. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because I'm ranting for way too long. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see.